Ever wondered what happens when a president's bold, eyebrow-raising ideas go from wild speculation to potential policy, or just vanish into thin air? Donald Trump's latest batch of unconventional proposals has sparked endless debate, and we're here to break it all down for you. As someone who's always pushing boundaries, Trump has a knack for tossing out concepts that sound revolutionary, repeating them until they gain traction, even if they don't always pan out. Some, like renaming the Department of Defense to the Department of War or slapping on massive global tariffs reminiscent of the Gilded Age, have become surprisingly normalized. Others, such as pardoning those involved in the January 6th Capitol riot, have stirred massive controversy. But here's where it gets controversial. Many of these ideas force Trump to pivot or backtrack when faced with reality. And this is the part most people miss. Not every outlandish notion sticks around. Some fade away as impractical or politically untenable. Let's explore Trump's most recent eye-popping statements and their current status, with a bit of extra context to help newcomers grasp the bigger picture. 50-year mortgages. Where it stands. Still in the conversation. Backstory. Imagine stretching your home loan from the usual 30 years to a whopping 50. That's what Trump proposed in a social media post, juxtaposing himself with Franklin Delano Roosevelt under a 30-year mortgage label. Federal Housing Finance Agency Director Bill Pulte called it a complete game changer, and the White House argues it could help ease the burden of skyrocketing home prices by reducing monthly payments. For beginners, think of it this way. Longer loan terms mean smaller chunks coming out of your paycheck each month, making homes more affordable upfront. However, you'd be paying interest for decades longer, delaying the day you actually own your home outright and build equity. That's the financial stake you accumulate as you pay down the loan. After economists and even some Republicans criticized it, Trump downplayed the idea on Fox News, saying, "All it means is you pay less per month." Yet, White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt confirmed on Wednesday that Trump's economic team is seriously looking into ways to implement it. Is this a smart move for housing affordability? Or could it trap people in debt longer? We'll keep an eye on it. Tariff Revenue Checks. Where it stands. Still under discussion. Backstory. Trump hinted online that the tariffs he's championed could lead to direct payments of at least $2,000 per person, excluding those with high incomes. Experts, however, are skeptical, pointing out that American shoppers are already footing the bill for these import taxes through higher prices on goods. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent even admitted the checks might not materialize. To clarify for those new to this, tariffs are like taxes on imported products. And while the government collects over $225 billion from them per bipartisan trackers, it falls short of what $2,000 checks for millions would cost, even if high-income folks are excluded. Despite this, Leavitt insists the White House is committed to making these dividends a reality. But here's where it gets controversial. Is redistributing tariff revenue a fair way to help everyday Americans, or does it unfairly burden importers and consumers alike? And this is the part most people miss. The economic ripple effects, like inflation from higher prices, could outweigh the benefits. Air traffic controller bonuses. Where it stands. Hanging in the balance. Backstory. During a government shutdown, Trump floated $10,000 bonuses for air traffic controllers who kept working without pay to ensure safety in the skies. When pressed on funding on the Ingraham angle, he shrugged, "I don't know," then added, "I always get the money from someplace. Regardless, it doesn't matter." This idea aimed to reward dedication in a crisis, but without clear funding sources, it stalled. For context, government shutdowns halt non-essential operations, but essential workers like air traffic controllers often stay on the job unpaid. Imagine the stress of directing planes without compensation. Death penalty in D.C. where it stands. Largely forgotten. Backstory. In September, Trump directed the enforcement of death penalty laws in the District of Columbia, suggesting murderers there should face execution. But D.C. abolished the death penalty in 1981. and voters rejected its reinstatement in a 1992 referendum. While the U.S. Attorney for D.C. and Justice Department fall under Trump's oversight, most murders in the city are local matters, not federal crimes. This proposal raised ethical questions about capital punishment. Is it a deterrent, or does it risk wrongful executions? Controversially, some argue it could bring justice, while others see it as outdated and inhumane. Creating a U.S. sovereign wealth fund where it stands. A clever detour taken. Backstory. Trump issued an executive order in February to explore a government-run investment fund, similar to those in oil-rich nations like Saudi Arabia or Norway, which pool surpluses for long-term gains. But the U.S. has no such surpluses. In fact, budget deficits have ballooned since Trump's time in office. Instead of a formal fund, the administration is investing in companies like U.S. Steel, Intel, and rare earth mineral firms for national security reasons. Think of sovereign wealth funds as giant savings accounts where governments invest in stocks or assets. Great for stability, but tricky without extra cash. This move skirts declaring a full fund while boosting domestic industries. But here's where it gets controversial. Is this government overreach into private markets, or a savvy way to protect against foreign dependencies? Changing NFL kickoff rules where it stands, still being discussed, though with resignation. Backstory. Trump dislikes the NFL's new pickoff format, where players start closer together to avoid dangerous high-speed tackles. He called it demeaning and unromantic, hurting the game's excitement. On ESPN with Pat McAfee. I don't think they have the right to do that to the game, he said, but admitted the league would do what they want. For fans, this rule reduces injuries but changes the thrill of those explosive returns. Trump seems aware it's unlikely to change. Is prioritizing safety over spectacle the right call, or does it strip away NFL's raw energy? Changing the Commander's name, naming their new stadium after him. Where it stands, still on the table. Backstory. The White House called it beautiful to name the Washington Commanders' new stadium after Trump, though the team hasn't agreed. Trump also criticized the Commanders' name, preferring the old Redskins, which offended many Native Americans. He once threatened to block stadium funding unless the name changed back. Naming it after him might sway his opinion. This touches on cultural sensitivity. Why keep a name seen as disrespectful? Controversially, some view it as honoring a president, while others argue it's divisive and ignores community voices. Suspending habeas corpus, where it stands, effective he shelved. Backstory. Deputy Chief of Staff Stephen Miller mentioned exploring suspension of habeas corpus, a constitutional right preventing unlawful detention to expedite deportations. But when Trump was asked in October, he seemed confused. Suspending who? He deferred to Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem, who denied any talks. Habeas corpus, for beginners, is like a legal safeguard ensuring you can't be held without charges. Suspending it is rare and typically for national emergencies. This idea aimed to speed up immigration actions but raised alarms about civil liberties. Is this a necessary tool for security or a dangerous overreach? U.S. retaking Bagram Airfield in Afghanistan. Where it stands, uncertain. Backstory. Trump hinted at reclaiming Bagram, the former U.S. hub in Afghanistan, from the Taliban, warning bad things are going to happen if it's not returned. The Taliban rejected the idea, urging a realistic approach. Bagram was key for operations against terrorism, but its loss after the 2021 withdrawal ended U.S. presence. Retaking it could reignite conflict, and this is the part most people miss. The geopolitical fallout, like tensions with China in the region. Arrests for sinister behavior at the UN, where it stands, no longer pursued. Trump called for probes into 3 sinister events at the UN. General Assembly, an escalator stopping abruptly, later attributed to a U.S. videographer triggering the safety feature. A teleprompter going dark, and sound issues during his speech. He demanded arrests, blaming sabotage, but none occurred. Investigations cleared technical glitches, not malice. This fueled speculation about perceived threats. Were these genuine incidents or overreactions? Trump's proposals often capture headlines, but their fates reveal the challenges of turning rhetoric into reality. Some gain support, others fade, raising questions about governance and priorities. Do you think these ideas are game changers or mere distractions? Should presidents experiment with such bold concepts or stick to proven policies? Share your thoughts in the comments. Do you agree with pursuing a sovereign wealth fund? Or is suspending habeas corpus a bridge too far? Let's discuss.